Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, the audience discretion is advised.
Welcome to Travelers on the Omnibus, a field trip through nerd and pop culture. My name is Ethan Skinner.
I'm Jody.
Don't ever say that in my presence.
I'm James McCarthy.
Thank you, ghost of Jason Holder.
Jason's dead?
Jesus
He's one of my
Christ.
best friends, and you know before I do?
I don't see him amongst us. Like how I also don't see another one of us sitting here. I've discovered the power of the breeding pen. See, it doesn't count because I'm actually sitting here.
From your lips to God's ears.
Now he's not here, unfortunately.
It can't offend anybody. He's dead.
See, exactly.
Appropriate. Not really.
I should have always had a soundboard, and I should never be given a soundboard.
Brady Davis is not here tonight, unfortunately.
Yes,
he
has
had work.
work and family obligations,
Yeah.
which boo to the first, yay to the second.
Life gets in the way of some things.
Life
however,
does find a way
however-
to get in the way.
Also, Jason Holder is still alive.
yes.
Yes,
that
This
I
was
wanna-
a
and
triumph.
healthy. Alive
yeah,
and
I
healthy.
want to
yes.
I want to confirm that before he unalives Ethan for suggesting that he
I'm
was
making
dead.
a note here. Huge success. Jason is still alive.
Yeah, there we go.
alive and healthy. However, us three are still going to be here to give
We're
you...
dead. We're actually you're listening. Welcome,
Alive, but not so much
Welcome
healthy.
to Ghostly
Welcome to the past
Travelers on the
travelers.
Omnighost.
Ghost Travelers. Is that like Ghost Riders in the Sky, but
Yes.
like lamer?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Way lamer.
Way lamer.
Yeah. Like my hip is off.
Oh, man.
Oh,
I'm
no.
sorry to hear that.
There you go.
Then whose hip is that sitting right next to yours?
I've never said anything funny. Moving on.
All right.
Jody, what have you been doing?
Oh, cool. I've been playing a game that came out like 4 years ago. That's, part of my repertoire.
I'm
you know.
playing Deus Ex right now, which came out before the turn of the century.
So, one of my favorite
Maybe just after it.
One of my favorite distributors, I should say, not publishers, because Devolver Digital is like Lionsgate. They put out everything, not necessarily like always involved in the game itself. But I've been playing Carrion, which is a game where you play as a alien blob that consumes different scientists while you're trying to like make your way through a maze of different experiments and puzzles and try and find your way out while you're moving through the whole facility. And that's been pretty fun. It's kind of challenging, actually. There's parts in the game where you have certain powers depending on what your size is. So if you get really big, you can't do certain things. And so there are different places in the game, much like in Kid Icarus, when you could jump into the water to undo the eggplant wizard's eggplant curse. Mm-hmm. You can jump into this pool of water and shrink yourself down and then go back out and do the puzzle that you need to do for that size. And what's really cool is all the save points grow you back to whatever your largest size is so that you can switch between the two. So that's pretty cool. It's been pretty fun. I've been enjoying it. I'm probably like about a third of the way through the game. The other thing I did was I binged all of Fallout Monday.
Yay or nay?
I'd say a yay. I'd say a yay. I think that out of all the other properties that have been turned into TV and or movies, that Fallout akins itself to being able to tell an original story. And because, for one thing, the games have only touched on so many places in the United States, and there's also different timelines in the Fallout as well. And so I think that they're able to have a really good idea of making an original character and making you or set of characters, I should say, and making you kind of be able to not assume what's happening. They stay true to the feel of the game as far as the dark humor and the social commentary and things of that nature, because Fallout really is more or less, it's very much like a Western in a lot of different ways, with sci-fi applications to it or whatever. So One cool character is the Ghoul, that's played by Walden. He's got a Goggins. Yeah, he's got a really interesting last name. He's a character actor. He's been in a handful of things
I wish
recently.
Brady was here so he could talk about him from Justified.
He's also in a show on Max called White Lotus. He was in The Hateful Eight. He's been in a couple of things, but he plays the Ghoul, and he's 200 years old. But he also plays a human before the bombs fall. That's at the very beginning of the first episode, so you don't really. That's not really a spoiler. That's just something that happens real early on. So you get that because you get like a good representation of who he is as a character, him and his wife and his kid, and they're all hanging out, and then boom. And then you follow the Vault Dweller. I cannot remember the character's name for some reason, even after watching 8 hours of the show 2 days ago.
That's telling.
Yep. Well, there's a lot to take in. And so you have three main characters. You have the Ghoul, you have the Vault Dweller, and then you have a young member of the Brotherhood of Steel. And so they do a good job of kind of bringing those characters in separately, and then eventually, of course, connecting them in some way. Kyle MacLachlan is also in there. He plays the overseer of Vault 33. He is the father of the main character. So his daughter is the lone survivor, in this scenario. Not really. The Vault spot. There's a really good back and forth of her being out and then what's really going on inside Vault 33. One thing that's also interesting is in this scenario, there are three vaults that are connected to each other through a tunnel. And so you have Vault 33, 32, and 31. And so they have that sort of like, trade kind of thing where they trade back and forth between the vaults, not just, resources, but also like people, workers, people get married in other vaults or whatever to try and keep the gene pool fresh, if you will. They do a really good job on the special effects. The power armor is actually real. It's not CGI. There's actually not a lot of CGI in this outside of the some of the robots, of course. Mr. Handy, also Cogsworth, if you will. It has a lot of flair from story pieces from not necessarily story pieces, but different themes from New Vegas is in there. Like the New Republic of California is part of the story in a way, as well as some other Easter eggs. There's actually quite a bit of Easter eggs. There's like she goes into a shop and there's like a magazine of Grognak the Barbarian, which is in the game. So yeah, it was like 8.5 hours, something like that. Do you have any questions about the show? No?
Not necessarily.
No, we watched about half of it at the lock-in that we did on Saturday night because we literally put it on like I think after you left,
right?
And yeah, there's at least 4 episodes of it that we got through.
Nice. What did you think of what you saw?
They did a great job on the look and the feel of the series.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot going on around me, so I can't speak much to the acting or the plot.
Right.
But when I looked over, I think they did a very good job of capturing the aesthetic, both the physical aesthetic as well as the thematic aesthetic of the Fallout universe.
I think that doing a show like this, the other example would be The Last of Us. The Last of Us is actually a bad example, but Last of Us kind of has to follow a storyline from a video game, which is not what happens here. Like, this is an original storyline with original characters, but it's heavily themed in the Fallout universe. So it stays true to the theme of Fallout and to the humor. And one really cool thing that they do is they play the old-timey music that you hear during the game when you're playing Fallout 3 and 4. You get that in really cool different sequences with the action sequences sometimes, as well as just other sequences. That it all kind of like makes sense. There's a super duper mart in there. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. In fact, I might go back and watch it again at some point.
It's on Paramount, isn't it?
No, it's on Prime.
Oh, Prime.
Yeah. In fact, it's probably one of Prime's biggest things they've done recently, I would imagine.
Definitely production wise, like that was a very good production.
They put a lot of money into it. So, yeah, that's what I've been up to.
I know Jay has something that involves both of you, so I'm gonna go ahead and go.
Okay.
All right.
The only thing that I really had going for me this past week was I was scrolling through the PS Plus storage, like seeing what games they have on their catalog, and I saw that they have all three of the or all releases of the PS4 version of the Kingdom Hearts games, and I haven't played them in quite some time, and so I decided to replay them.
Sure.
Currently playing through one right now. I've just gotten to the part where Monstro just swallowed me up, and I'm with Geppetto and Pinocchio. It still has the frustrating camera angles where where in the beginning it auto moves the camera, and I had to go in and disable all automatic camera movements, and it still has the inverted cameras too, so it's very struggling to just get the correct camera angle and point of view that I want. But otherwise, I'm having a fun time with it.
That was one of the annoying things in boss fights too, with the camera angles doing that. Back in the day,
the only other issue I have with it is the lock-on system, because it doesn't target if you have like multiple enemies in front of you, it chooses a random one instead of one that you want to focus on. Like there could be the big fat one that you want to take out because it has the most health, but all it does is just target a single shadow, and you have to scroll through all of the enemies before it gets to the big one. And by then you've already taken
it's in
a
real
good amount of
time,
damage,
so yeah.
But other than that, I'm having a fun time with it. That's all I've really had, and so I'll toss it up to Jay.
I only played the first two. I didn't play any of the other ones after that.
Do you know what my least favorite part about the camera in Kingdom Hearts is? It's the fact that it's focusing on Kingdom Hearts characters all the time.
Yeah.
I'm glad you agree. I'm sorry you have to play that again.
I'm not sorry.
I'm sorry someone's holding a gun to your head to play it, because that's the only way I can imagine anyone wanting to play that game.
No. My own free will. I've discovered the power of the breeding pen.
Oh, that's why you play the game. Let's see how it is.
Gotcha.
Right. I'm trying to do
what does this button do?
Okay, let's see what happens. It's the red one. The red one.
I've never said anything funny.
There you
Okay,
go.
there
All
we
right,
go.
there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. I didn't want your joke to fail because you actually hit the yuppies button, which is the orange button at the top. No, that's
Yuppies.
There we go.
Yuppies.
Yeah.
Yuppies. Okay, that's
See how powerful that is?
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
There you go. I don't. One of the reasons why I don't pay for like Spotify Premium or like the Premium for Amazon Music is because I rarely listen to any new music, and by that I mean like if it's on the radio, I'll listen to it. If it's a new song, I'll actually just probably catch the video on YouTube, something like that. But I did purchase the most recent album from the recent and final album possibly from The Weeknd called Dawn FM. Abel is looking to get rid of the Weeknd moniker, and his next album I think is going to be by Abel, like Abel, either under his name or a new character.
Oh, okay.
It's a concept album about the trip through purgatory into heaven and and experiencing like your last regrets and then moving on into the next life. This album could have very easily been a part of our episode on lyrics that get real dark and you don't even realize it, like Gasoline, which was the theme song for this year's WrestleMania. I think it's one of the reasons why I ended up buying the albums, because I heard Gasoline so much. It was like, okay, I need to get the whole thing.
Side tangent real fast. For the past 4 years or 5 years.
No, 4 years. Yeah.
4 years.
2021 no, I guess all 5. Yeah.
Yeah. For the past 5 years, The Weeknd has been the
theme song for
WrestleMania.
And hasn't performed at any of them. I really want him to perform at a WrestleMania.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, Sacrifice was it last year. Save Your Tears was the Tampa Bay one. I can't remember the song for 22 and 23. 22 for 22. It's not Take My Breath. Though that's another good song off of Dawn FM.
22, I believe it was Alone Again, I want to say.
That's a really somber song for a WrestleMania.
I don't know.
Like Save Your Tears, which is kind of melancholy, at least has an upbeat kind of beat to it. But anyway, to Dawn FM, a thing that had been fucking with my brain is with one of the pastiches of it. It's a radio station, and there's a radio DJ, and the DJ sounded so very familiar, and I couldn't pick it out. And then I get to the last song, and it's like, Phantom Regret by Jim. Who's Jim? Whatever. And then I looked it up. It's like, oh yeah, Jim Carrey is on this album, and that threw me right the fuck off. You also have features from Tyler the Creator and from Lil Wayne on a couple songs. If I had to pick out a favorite song, it's probably "Take My Breath Away," which is very, very like upbeat. This is like between Thriller and the one before Thriller. It was his disco album.
The Wall? Not Against the Wall?
Against the Wall, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a very very early Michael Jackson on his own album because it's high energy, it's pop, it's dance, it's a very good one. But again, it's also subtly very dark. Like the end to the chorus on Gasoline is, and if I die in my sleep, just wrap me up in these sheets and pour out the gasoline. It doesn't mean that much to me. And he's singing it with this beat that is just like, you want to dance to this. And as soon as you hear that, it's like, I don't want to dance anymore. I kind of want to like have a burger and a shake and consider all of my options in the world. But yeah, no, but it gets my recommendation. Not as good as After Hours, but I do think it was a very, very good album. And I think it's worth buying it just, even if it's just the MP3. I paid about $8 for the MP3 version of it. So I was happy about that. You can probably get it on vinyl. The vinyl made out of adamantium, which you can use to become Wolverine, I guess. Okay. You never know. But yeah, so there's that. And now for a very special presentation of Travelers on the Omnibus. It's Travelers traveling with the Omnibus. And so we did a road trip this previous weekend. It was myself, one Jody Kite, one erstwhile friend Brady Davis, and one not dead, thank God, friend Jason Holder. We all went to Pensacola, Florida. To stop by two game stores we've really been wanting to like get out and go to for a while. Jason, through his work, actually visits there often. Like I would say, like I think he told us like once every 2 weeks at least. And it was very and I had been there before. I just want to see if it changed. And I don't think Brady or you had ever been to either of them. So
no, I've been at TBS.
You were at TBS before. Okay, we'll talk about the one that was your first time visit, which was Level Up. Level Up is this nice. It's really almost on I-10, but it's God, I can't remember the name of the drive. Because I want to recommend it if you're in the greater Pensacola, Florida Panhandle, or even just Gulf South area. I would check out Level Up. I thought they have a really good store layout. It is primarily a miniature store, which for us is exactly how we want it, at least for most of us. I know, Jody, you probably would have preferred maybe a little bit more Magic and a lot more board games.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
They had almost no Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
They had 2 booster boxes and 2 commander decks, and that was it. They had sleeves and accessories. They had a pretty good selection of TBT RPG books.
Yeah, tabletop RPGs. The board gaming side was very, hey, we funded I wouldn't say sparse.
Yeah.
I would say funded off of Kickstarter,
right?
Because there was a lot of Kickstarter like exclusive boxes that were also on their shelves there too. Yeah. I want to shout out their drink and snack vending machines because I thought those were amazing. I bought a bottle of Fiji water, which would have cost me like $3 at a convenience store for $1.50.
Interesting.
And it was like, this is delicious because I'm gonna tell you right now, I was dehydrating that entire trip. Good God. But no, their minis area is
ridiculous.
Fantastic.
It's ridiculous.
Absolutely fantastic.
It's like, so you know how big McNarb's is, right?
Yeah.
Like that was pretty much like almost the same size as their storefront. All right. So imagine this. Imagine when you walk into McNarb's And the left side of the wall that's just mostly wall, and then the arcade cabinet, and then like the demo board games and all that. All right, all of that is Warhammer.
That is
Oh,
insane.
I'm not finished.
Oh.
And so imagine that instead of like the countertop area, like the store stops wherever you step up to go to the front counter, and there's a wall there. That's also Warhammer. And then the 3 or 4 aisles.
It's 3 aisles.
The three aisles. It's 2 sections basically.
It's 3 aisles, but they're double-sided aisles, so it's like 6 aisles.
The store is in 2 sections. So this is the minis half of the store, or I should say the 2/3 of the store. So then you have 3 double aisles of minis from mostly like obscure military strategy tactical minis games, like World War II, Vietnam War, things like that, like made by there's like 2 or 3 different companies or whatever. And then you have like half a wall of painting, like paints, just
paints, modeling, glue,
like
tools,
all that.
yeah.
Now, here's the thing. So if you take McNarb's, right now, we've got the whole store. All right, now add this. So if you took McNarb's and vertically cut it in half, right? And on the right half doesn't exist. So you got like half the store vertically cut right down the middle from the floor to the ceiling. All right, take that all the way from like right when you walk into the left side. You have tables from that all the way to the bathroom. They had like probably like 15 the mini tables that are there that we played AOS on. They have like 15 of those.
Yeah.
And then they had a couple of tables in the back for whatever.
And all of those tables were filled with 40K players.
Yeah, there was like
Jesus.
60 people there playing minis games.
Jesus.
And the atmosphere felt very like energetic. Okay, this is pretty cool.
Right.
So, yeah.
I'm going to tell you one more thing. They had a little bulletin board of like what's coming up, the events they do weekly and daily and all of that. Like, hey, Sunday we have pickup games of Warhammer, and Saturday we have Warhammer tournaments. What do you think they said for Friday? What do you think was on there for Friday? Family board game night. There is no Magic events at this store. They don't run any Magic events at this store, which is fair because we're going to get to that game store in a minute. But it is just primarily miniature gaming.
Okay.
Like that's what it's there for. And it was a cool experience to see that because I'd never witnessed that before. It was like we walked into a like almost primarily Warhammer store. Very impressive.
That's honestly, I like the idea of experiencing like a different atmosphere because a lot of the like game stores I've gone to, it's like you have Magic, you have Pokemon, you have miniatures, you have board gaming, but like one store that specifies in like miniatures, Warhammer, TTRPGs,
Right.
That sounds fun. That sounds interesting.
It was interesting for sure. It was pretty wild to see. We were only in there for about 45 minutes, something like that.
I think it closed in closer to an hour than 45, but definitely wasn't over an hour. Yeah.
Right.
No, it was nice. Selection was great. The arrangement of the store was also very good.
$1.50 Fiji waters.
Yeah, $1.50 Fiji waters. That blew my mind. I've never seen a Fiji water back before inflation where a Fiji water was
Speaking of inflation,
$50.
Their gaming room for a tabletop is $10 an hour, which is they're in Pensacola.
Yeah.
So
they're in Pensacola. I think that there's also more of a demand for it. So I think you can make the. Excuse seems very. I'm not going to make the excuse. I think you can make a solid argument legitimately for making it. And also like, what else do they offer with the room? Is it just the room? Is there more stuff to it? I don't think we went in that more in depth in it.
Right.
But for me, it gets a solid recommendation if you're in the again, you said Pensacola or in the Florida Panhandle area, and you're looking for a game store, and you are miniatures inclined or more board game inclined. I would say check out Level Up.
5 minutes away.
Yes, 5 minutes away.
Literally 5 minutes.
Is Pensacola's other game store.
Okay.
They only have 2.
Okay.
Which surprised me for how big
too.
Pensacola is.
Me
but
too.
then I got to also kind of think of it. Pensacola is big, but it's big for us. Whereas opposed to a city like, say, I don't know, like you have Orlando, Tampa, Miami, Jacksonville. You have much bigger cities in Florida. So I can see where having multiple stores would be something different.
Pensacola is like the Pascagoula of big.
But then on the counterpoint of that, I think Mobile effectively has 2 gaming stores. They have G&G, and I think they have Cobb's, which is just a little bit outside of
That's in Spanish Port, yeah.
But isn't that kind of
Adjacent.
just outside?
It's right outside of Mobile.
adjacent,
Yeah. So yeah, but we went to TBS Comics, TBS Comics, which that was more of your traditional, I would like to say, game store because there was a bigger push for all sorts of games and Magic being in the forefront. And I think there was an actual. Was there a Magic tournament going on, or was it just dudes talking about Magic?
There were just a couple people playing in that there.
All right.
Originally, it was a comic book store, just a comic book store, right? Yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool. I liked the layout of everything. You had you had pretty much a little bit of everything in that store.
What I liked about it, and this is just gonna sound so like almost boomer centric, but I loved how bright it was in there.
It was very bright.
So you can see everything going on. You know what's going on. Like there wasn't a, how best to put this. And anybody who's been on the Mississippi Gulf Coast in the gaming scene knows this. It didn't smell like an MMA locker room,
right?
So that was pretty cool. Again, it was divided up very well as far as this is the area for this is the area for this,
right?
And it was again another very good store. Of the two, I think I prefer Level Up only because of the focus on the miniatures gaming, which is what I'm mostly focusing on right now. But I did like both stores. I would recommend people go.
Yeah, they had like a pocket of mini gaming in that as far as and they have a couple.
I will say this one thing they had on Level Up, they had way more Crisis Protocol.
Oh, they had a lot.
Had their own like wall and a half where there was like one section of one of those double aisles over at Level Up, and I picked out some good stuff. I bought from both places Crisis Protocol. I got the Doctor Strange Clea pack from Level Up, and from over at TBS, I got the X-Men affiliation box, which I would say if you are getting into Crisis and you don't want to, or you don't have anyone to split the main box with, or you don't want to buy the whole main box, I would highly recommend getting one of the affiliation packs because it comes with 4 fighters for typically what it would cost to buy those same fighters. Like it's like price and a half versus buying both of those boxes at their regular price. So I think it's a good deal there as far as MSRP goes on that one. And again, it gives you pretty much a good solid starting lineup for things that you'd want to field.
Also, there's not many places that I know locally, and I consider that locally, even though it was like an hour one way, that you could buy. They had so many monthly comics that were there, like outside of their regular like older comics. There's like 30 or 40 like monthly comics that they had.
3 Alarm in D'Iberville is the closest thing I would say to them.
But yeah, and I like the way they had some older comics packaged 1 to 15. You could buy like a whole collection of like a short story or a short run or whatever. A really good selection of graphic novels. They had a small pocket of TTRPGs. They had a vast Magic section where you could buy they had like a lot of commander decks from like the past 4 or 5 sets. Yeah, that was it was really cool.
This normally wouldn't appeal to me, and it actually doesn't. But it kind of got me. The manga section was actually very, very well loaded. They had a complete run of JoJo, which shocked me because that's a long one. I saw One Piece stuff there. I didn't see how much One Piece stuff they had, but to me that would have to be like
a whole
entire store,
yeah,
in order to do that. But they had a significant amount of manga in there.
They had a nice amount of manga for sure.
Their their board gaming selection, and it's not so much a negative as it was. It felt limited,
right?
Like again, it felt limited to more modern collections stuff than it did to like older stuff. But still, they have it there. Like they have the Simon Dune game, which I think is effectively War of the Ring, except Dune. Which is pretty cool. Which I mean, to say that Star Wars Rebellion is like War of the Ring except Star Wars, except it's a little bit more different than War of the Ring goes. I like TBS. I thought it was a really good store, and it was in the same shopping center as a place that we're going to talk about next week once we have the entire crew back together.
Right.
A place called Po Folks.
Yeah. I will say,
Gotcha.
which was a restaurant experience.
Yeah.
we will never forget.
unlike any other. I want to say something real quick about both shops. They were like, not only did they have things like in the proper places and everything like that, they were both like packed with stuff. Like they did not have an empty space on a shelf. I imagine as soon as a comic book gets sold, they stick another one back there, or an action figure or anything really. They was just fully stocked, both stores.
Friend of the show, Kevin Gallo, told me that in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, a store just closed after they went from they got the idea as let's provide less product and also charge table time in the general store.
Yeah, it's a bad idea.
Yeah, and then that store disappeared. So people go to your shop to buy things, and if you have a nice enough shop, they will be willing to spend the extra rather than have the Amazon 2-day because these hobbies require zocolos, which means meeting places. It requires, and hobbies exist and thrive when you have strong zocolos where you can meet together and and be inviting to new people to come in,
Have a community.
and both Level Up and TBS really kind of gave off that vibe. And same way when I come into McNarb's, it was the exact same way. It was this idea that like, hey, we're doing this and we're having an active and fun time doing it, and so you should probably try to join in this. And the places are well kept, well put together, and there's no sign of, oh, I think this thing might not be working because that whole wall's blank. Like, no, the wall, you can tell that there is a design to keep things stocked and active. And honestly, it's like when we were ringing up at Level Up, so did you find everything okay? Oh yeah, you did. Okay, well, because you back again if you need anything, oh, that's quite all right. And then you like looked at all the stuff I bought. I bought stuff for Age of Sigmar, 40K, Crisis Protocol, random tufts, grass tufts, which I'm going to start using here in a little bit. That's going to be fun. And just and dice for random games. It's like, oh, you got a little bit of everything. Yep, got a little bit of everything. And I could get it all in the same space. And some of the stuff I bought because I wanted it, and some of the stuff I bought because I didn't necessarily know it existed, but it was tangential to the stuff I was buying. Again, if you run a good shop, people will buy from you. Right. But if it's a symbiosis to me. You have to have a good shop with a good play area. If you have one and not the other, I don't think in this day and age it's going to stay together.
It also those experiences, like, sometimes we take things for granted, and you go to a place like that and you see like those places and they're running really well and everything's going well. It makes you also very grateful for what you have. Like what we have here is fucking awesome. Like, I love our community and all the stuff that we have that we can do here, and all the stuff we can buy here as well. So I'm really grateful for McNarb's. I really am.
There you go. Yeah. But yeah, that is Travels with the Omnibus, a new random series that we'll do from
boldly
time to time.
Going to Pensacola, Florida.
Yeah, and possibly Slidell one day.
Yeah,
Slidell one
we
day.
need to do that.
Yep. There you go.
That's where Corn Dog 7 is, right?
No, that's Laurel.
That's in Laurel.
Okay.
We have to do a Travels with the Omnibus to Laurel.
I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm in. That mall.
Never been.
It's
okay. We have to have you on the next one. Then.
Shingle
Absolutely.
Mill Mall. It is like 2 hours one way. The mall, however, is stuck in 1979. Everything's wood paneling. It's amazing. It's a time capsule.
That sounds amazing.
They're in the theater. They're showing Smokey and the Bandit 3. It's fucking amazing.
Theater was closed.
That's because it's appointment only. Smokey and the Bandit 3. That's the only thing you can watch. There you go.
They don't have new movies. It's just
no.
Smokey and the Bandit 3.
Smokey and the Bandit 3 is new to Laurel, Mississippi. That's just the way it is.
But guess what?
Time works.
Guess what they have besides the mall?
What?
Nothing. There's literally nothing there.
Jeez.
They don't. I don't even think they have a Walmart. They might. I don't think they do.
That's the greatest horror story never put on film.
There's
just Laurel, Mississippi.
There's no GameStop of any kind. So
they were probably getting ready to put one in, and that's when GameStop's decline started.
Well, they do have a video game store in the mall if it's still there. You can rent Super Nintendo games there. I'm not joking.
Absolutely.
I am not joking.
Can't wait to play Donkey Kong.
Ethan, Donkey Kong.
You mean Donkey Kong Country?
Country, yes. I just referred to Donkey Kong. But yes, Donkey Kong Country. That's what I meant.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being passengers with us on the omnibus tonight. If you would like to leave feedback, which we don't have any this week, unfortunately. However, if you would like to leave feedback, travelers on the omnibus at gmail.com. Again, that is travelers, 1L on the omnibus at gmail.com.
Jody, where else can they reach us at?
Spotify. Take part in any polls we have on Spotify.
I need to get the echo effect on your, that'd be great.
Jay, where else can the lovely people reach us at?
We're the lovely Peter. Like Peter's the only person listening. Well, Peter, if you have friends that would like to listen to the omnibus, but unfortunately cannot enjoy podcasts on the channels that you do, we're available on. Right as he's taking a drink of his Fast Mart soda. Yeah, but specifically
Saga.
the other S.
Spotify.
More echo.
Spotify.
That's like bad opera, but we'll go with it. But yeah, also Apple,
Google Play.
no, YouTube Music now.
YouTube
they made the
Music.
choose and Amazon. Samey. It's time for the main topic. C.
Launch.
In a lot of our favorite video games that we play always have they all revolve around a certain theme. There are many,
Except chess.
except
Yeah. Yeah.
Even then, they have battle chess
and Azul.
and Star
What
Wars
about
battle
Azul?
chess.
I did specify video games.
No, you did not.
I said
no,
video
yes,
games.
he did.
Oh, did you?
He did.
I missed
Yes,
that part.
Yeah, you've been. That's why you mentioning
zoned
Azul
out.
was really strange.
Yeah.
but no, there's a chess video game, and then there's battle chess.
That's true.
Which when you capture a pawn, it's like a minute-long fucking cutscene.
Oh, yeah.
Where and then it's done with, and it's annoying. And then there's Star Wars battle chess.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about mythologies in video games tonight.
Well, we are now. We were talking about Star Wars battle
Battle
yeah,
chess.
you were talking about Star Wars battle chess.
Loading
were as well.
screens in between cutscenes, in between
You were
levels.
like,
I don't think I
I'm
was.
Yoda. That's your Yoda impersonation.
That is not my Yoda impression.
Yeah, yes, it is. Okay, give us your Yoda impersonation. That's you did it better the first.
Do not.
You did it better the first time.
Yeah.
When you were going, I'm Yoda. That was thank you. That was way better.
Mythology in video games,
Yes.
everybody. There's a multitude of video games that have various inspirations and themes as the basis of their games. And
Super Mario has a basic theme. Trigun, the video game.
Trigun, the
basis.
video game.
Yeah. Oh, you're leading off with things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll lead off.
We were discussing.
I'll lead off with something that's pseudo mythology, and that's Kid Icarus. Kid Icarus. It's like so. Pit, the wonderful little angel boy from Angel Boy Land. I think that's what it's called. But no, he's fighting for the goddess Palutena. Actually, was meant to be Pallas Athena, the Greek goddess. However, certain things got lost in the translation.
As they did back in the 80s.
You fight Medusa at the very end, and I believe they brought in Hades also for Kid Icarus, like actual Hades for that. So yeah, kind of that's when you have like pastiches of mythology. They're necessarily the Greek pantheon.
You got some
there.
like there's a lot of pillars in the backdrops and flying harpies.
Yeah. Don't forget Eggplant Wizard. That's
Eggplant Wizard.
If you've
He's
ever
so
read the
Greek.
Iliad, you know what I'm talking
He's
about.
so Greek. The Odyssey had the Eggplant Wizard all up in there. That was one of those games too where that game was like Nintendo hard until you got to the last level.
Yeah.
Because
And it became the easiest shoot 'em up of all time.
because basically the whole thing is like you're collecting all these like Greek artifacts to basically go against the god. And
Not even the god. You go up against Medusa.
That's right.
She's not it's just a
and so
monster.
you have to have like so and so's bow and so shield, and then by the time you get to the fucking final like game where it just basically autopilots you through a flying stage, you're just like poning noobs left and right.
Yeah.
And then
Amazing.
2, 3, 4 shots. It's like Contra in that way. You get to the end, boom, game over.
Did y'all play the in 2012? There was a Kid Icarus Uprising for the 3DS.
I did not have a 3DS.
That game is loaded with content. Oh my god. You get dark. That's where we get Dark Pit. It all gets great. I want to go back really quick to Kid Icarus because you kill Medusa and then Palutena comes out of her eye.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
In Uprising.
An Eggplant Wizard is one eye, so he references the Cyclops.
Oh.
It has a false finish in it, where it goes you have to find the armor, find the shield, find the bow, and you defeat Medusa, and then it starts a credit roll, and then everything just stops, and Hades reveals himself as the actual final boss of the game, and so you have to go on and find him and defeat him. I never played the original Kid Icarus, but I played Uprising. It was pretty fun.
I got a game you probably haven't played.
Go for it.
Let's jump from Greek mythology for just a moment, because that's like typically the more known in games, is they dip their toes in Greek mythology all the time. Egyptian mythology, however, is very rarely touched, except for in most, like, in general games, which we're going to get to later. So there's a platformer on the PS2 called Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy, and I loved this game. It was so bad. It was like bad in concept as far as like the themes of it. Like the actual gameplay was really fun and the plot was really ridiculous. So you play Sphinx, a demigod. Sphinx and Tutankhamun are attacked by the god Set in the kingdom of Luxor. So there's a conspiracy between Tutankhamun and his brother, and his brother is actually disguised and is Set. And so Set turns Tutankhamun into a mummy, and you play both as Sphinx, which is like, you know, he's like a Prince of Persia kind of character, and then the mummy, which is it's the lore of it goes deep. There's like 2 pages of plot that I'm not going to go through, but it was a really fun like collecting, puzzle solving, platforming game, and I think it's the only one that's like that on the PlayStation 2. In fact, Egyptian themed games on the PS2, I think that might be the only one. I'm not sure.
I was just looking at it. I got a Switch remake.
Yeah, it got a Switch remake.
It
a
is
couple
also
years
available on Steam.
Yeah, it's fun. You should check it out. Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy.
I'll toss one. I'll toss one in. My English is not good. Apparently tonight.
Are you stroking?
Possibly.
Okay.
Jumping from Egyptian mythology to Japanese mythology with Okami.
Oh yeah,
Okami. It follows the tale of a
literally.
Yeah, it follows the tale of. Let me get this correctly.
Amaterasu.
Amaterasu. Yes. As he is trying to.
She.
Yes. She. She is trying to defeat the evil spirits.
Eliminate. No, I'm trying to just change words in your stuff now. So.
Evil spirits inspired by Japanese folklore and mythology, while also trying to bring back the light to the lands. Very beautiful game.
It was originally on the PlayStation 2, and then it got re-released to a later console.
I know the Wii had it for a little bit.
Yeah,
it
got
I
I don't know if it got remastered, but yeah, it's a beautiful like cel-shaded watercolor game. They had
watercolor on wood.
Yeah.
in particular.
They had
that style. Obviously,
they had finally got to a point where cel shadings, people were like knew what they were doing. And I believe I played the game. I own the game on PlayStation 2, and I believe you like certain parts in the game where you use like watercolor paints, right?
Yeah,
the celestial
with
brush.
your tail or
the
something.
celestial brush. There are areas where you can use the analog stick to like
I
paint a drawing, and it affects the world. Like you could grow a tree, you could set fire to something.
Yeah.
I got it for the Switch, and I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a fun game. Very pretty. Very pretty.
Jay, you got one?
No, I have nothing. It's just you two tonight.
Oh, okay.
There's no way I'm going to be talking about Smite at all.
Yeah, that's also a thing.
Yeah.
So,
But do you want all the gods to fight one another in a MOBA style game that is third person? Yeah, try out Smite.
right, Smite for sure. Let's see.
These are more so directly tied to their mythologies as they are. We're pulling pieces out of the mythology. I think Akami is much stronger as far as that regard because Akami is not Akami. Amaterasu is the goddess of the sun, and so I think there's a little bit more to there as far as the metaphor goes. But you have these instances of games where you are the gods fighting one another. Smite to me stands out like primarily. Because it is, you have most of the main ones, particularly in the Greek and Egyptian pantheons, and it's just basically just kind of these supernatural powers that we've attributed to all of those gods and then to me it makes for an easily adapted MOBA game where you want to create characters that have fantastical powers, but also can fit certain roles within a team of gods. Like, we need something upgraded and built properly. Hephaestus, he's a support, and Zeus smacks people down with lightning and generally is one above all. So he's your AD carry. I think it's been a while since I've played Smite, but yeah. But so like again, when you have these, I mean, for lack of better, again, you have mythological characters that have specific like powers and dispositions and things like that. I think it makes it easier for a type of game for that to exist. Like I said, I haven't played Smite as much as other MOBAs, in particular League of Legends, but I'd also say that in League of Legends, a lot of characters are archetypically kind of like given pods with powers similar to that we know of from mythological gods and monsters.
There's also like another game that's obscure, a little bit more obscure is Rygar.
Oh Lord.
Rygar is, if I was gonna pick like a theme to it, it's kind of like imagine if you mashed up like some sort of like medieval slash Aztec and Mayan kind of like it, I mean to the look of some of the levels anyway.
Maybe I've always thought of it as just Conan, but in 8-bit on the NES and in the arcades, just to the arcade level.
The main character had like the Conan thing going for it, but like some of the areas, some of the levels are like very, very stony and got that like Aztec vibe. That's what I got from it anyway. And then some of the gods, you end up like you fight gods in that game. But I think they're more like loosely based on some of the mythological deities from maybe Maya and Aztec. I'm speaking from personal knowledge. I don't know if that's true or not, but it kind of had that feel to me.
There are also games that aren't necessarily based around a certain mythology, but they will have like aspects of it.
There's a lot of those.
I know when I was playing Persona 5, there's a literal pyramid section of the game where you just you're able to find Anubis. Like,
well, the Persona series, the entire conceit of it is the chess club gets together to kill God.
Yeah.
While also becoming God sometimes, depending, or maybe demons.
Yes, but it's a game that's not necessarily focusing on like a mythology or set in a time period where mythologies are prevalent. It's just inspirations that somehow make it into the game.
Well, I mean, you go like just to very touch on tabletop RPGs, which I'll get it back to video games. Like those were the monsters like early on. Like you had those mythical monsters there. So when you start getting things like Dragon Quest and particularly Final Fantasy, like I remember fighting Mini Manticore on the way to Bahamut's castle, just through that jungle and forest, and that was nice. So you have these touches of mythology that certainly appear, particularly in the fantasy genre.
Yeah.
There's also crossover in the sci-fi genre. I want to touch on that just a bit later, but you even see like in designs for monsters that have a sci-fi bent to them, you have these kind of mythological like characteristics that are added on to them.
There's also like going back to the Greek stuff. There's multiple games on, like for example, there's Hercules. There's also Hercules and Hercules: The Legendary Journeys, which they made a video game out of. But they made a They made a PS1 game for the Hercules Disney film. That's pretty fun. And going back to Kingdom Hearts, there's a world that's based off of that as well in Kingdom
the Olympus
Hearts.
Coliseum.
The Olympus Coliseum as well, to be more in line with the
able to fight the Titans with Zeus and Hercules and Phil.
yes, and Phil.
I think it makes it easier to kind of visualize these things because these archetypes have been with us for forever, both in Western and Eastern culture.
Right. Altered Beast too.
Yeah. Is severely Greek.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the wires from your grave.
I don't know, do you ever play Herc's Adventures on the PS1?
No.
It's weird. It's sort of like an isometric action adventure game. So it's pretty fun.
The very few of those that I like on the PC all usually have the words Legacy of Kain around them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Legacy of Kain,
Now
Soul.
So you have Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain, and then you have Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver.
Yeah.
Which those follow a path where if Kain chose the evil ending to Blood Omen, which typically everyone now considers the canon. And I think the company itself,
right?
Which is
was
funny.
that Eidos?
I think Eidos was the publisher. So Crystal Dynamics made the game, but it was based off of stuff from Silicon Knights and specifically Donald. I think it's Donald Dyack, who then later went on to do. This is how we're going to get back full circle. Who later went on to do Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem, which was the best horror game on the GameCube. I know, not a big thing, but I would argue is one of the best horror games of all time. And then their follow up to it was Too Human.
Yeah.
And if we're going to talk about science fiction retellings of mythological things, let's talk about Too Human, because Too Human was a sci-fi take on Norse mythology. You actually play Balder, except you're sci-fi Balder, and it's kind of strange in that, and you're going about doing science fiction things in a science fiction based Norse mythology. I don't want to talk much about that game because as much as if it had been good, this would be a perfect candidate for talking about mythology and how to use it in. But this is how not to use it in video games, because you can do a science fiction retelling of the mythologies. I think there's enough supernatural and fantastical things that you can translate from fantasy to science fiction. I don't think that's the problem. Where the problem comes in is the game was bad. The game had a very terrible primary loop of basically I think of it as like third person Diablo in a lot of ways, the times that I played it. And what really kind of fucked them was the fact that they sued Unreal Epic. They sued Epic because they said, "Oh, the Unreal Engine was shit and made our game shit." It's like, "Oh, that's cool. So you violated the Epic contract for the Unreal Engine, and you have all those copies on the shelves now. You have to pull them, or you owe us." And so that's the end of Too Human. There, a very bad game that ended very badly. Jeez. Yeah. Did you see pictures of it just now on your phone?
I did. It's.
So when you die in that game, a Valkyrie comes down and returns your soul to Valhalla, and then you go back into the game. It is a 30 to 45 second unskippable cutscene.
No.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, it's not good.
I'll enjoy never playing that game.
Yeah.
However,
which do you prefer, melee builds or ranged builds in games? Trick question. If you did a range build, you did okay. If you did a melee build, there's too many enemies in the game that when you kill them, they inflict a status effect on you if you're up close. So melee builds were just don't do them.
Shits on an entire half portion.
Yeah,
of
and then
how
you either have
play.
to sit there or have something that'll cleanse it off of you. Otherwise, yeah, it's like I get to do a shitty fight for 30 seconds, and then I have to wait here for everything to clear out. Then I'm gonna move on. Jesus. It's not. Too Human was very bad. I wish I could talk more about it from its mythological trappings. I'll say that there was another game that attempted a science fiction retelling of the Norse mythology through a German play, which is a German epic called Der Ring des Nibelungen, or simply put, for the video game style, The Ring. The Ring was made into an adventure game, but a point and click 3D adventure game, fully voice acted, based off of Der Ring des Nibelungen. Ethan, how long? It's a play. How long is the play?
How long is the play?
In hours and in hours, just hours, just an estimate in hours. How long do you think it is?
4 hours.
You say it's 4 hours. You're 10 hours off.
I was about to say
14 hours.
Jesus.
It has to be done in 4 acts over 4 nights in order to be able for the audience to survive it.
That's a lot of hours.
Nah, I'm good.
Speaking
Act
of
4 is called Twilight of the Gods.
oh, good lord. Speaking of that though, Skyrim.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like a
Never heard of it.
Mostly, you smug motherfucker.
It's slowly replacing Doom as that thing that can play on anything.
Yeah. Skyrim has pretty much like a hodgepodge of mostly Norse mythology and folklore and things of that nature. Also mixed in with a little panache of Greek stuff, as well. The all the Daedra and the gods that are in there.
I would argue the entire Elder Scrolls series is I don't necessarily mean this in a bad way, but it's a mishmash of a lot of mythologies.
Right.
A lot of mythologies.
Right. But
I prefer the mod where all of the dragons in Skyrim are replaced with Thomas the Tank Engines.
of course you do.
Yes.
It just makes the game so much better.
It feels the Skyrim though, Oblivion 2 for that matter, for me playing those games feels like at least the first time that I played them really feels like you're on the hero's journey. Just you're the one person to get there and do everything and banish the land of everything that you see fit, I guess. Maybe somebody talked to you the wrong way and it pissed you off. Or that random thief that showed up in the middle of the night. This is like, hey, give me all your money. Like, really, dude? Are you sure? I've got 5 gold on me, but let's go. Anyway. But yeah, the deities are really cool in Skyrim and in Oblivion, Pretty cool stuff. They're all based off of Greek and Norse mythology. In fact, they have pretty much have Valhalla in Skyrim. I can't remember what they call it, like the something of the kings or whatever the fuck they call it.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite games that involves Greek mythology, and it's a more so recent game, Hades.
Oh yeah, I was about to ask you about that.
Hades, a very fun roguelike.
That's like the one game that company's made that I haven't played yet.
They have a sequel coming out, and I'm kind of excited for it. I've only gotten.
That's like the first sequel I think they've done on a game.
It's called Shades.
Shady.
Because and instead of Greek mythology, it's the mythology of Detroit and your Marshall Mathers.
Yeah, they're working on a sequel for Bastion right now. They're calling it Bastard. That was terrible. That did not land. Continue on with your Hades talk.
Yeah,
I've
Hades.
never said anything funny.
Okay, moving on.
Hades. It follows
Appropriate.
the son of Hades.
Uh-huh.
I can't.
They
remember.
lied.
He's trying to escape the underworld.
I could see Marshall Mathers being the son of Hades. Tea's gone cold. I'm wondering why I got out of bed at all.
He does get out of
Morning
bed.
rain clouds up my window, but I can't see it all. And even if I could, it would all be great. Put your picture on my wall, and it reminds me that this bit is bad. This bit is bad.
It was until you started doing that. I was about to say hit the button and then you fucking started the echo shit. I couldn't stop laughing. God damn it.
We need Brady. You're not listening to this because you don't listen to your own podcast, but we need your energy, man.
He'll listen
We
to this
need it.
episode. He's not on it. He just
Oh,
can't-
that's right. He'll
Yeah.
listen to this one. Well,
He'll
then he'll
actually
hear my
listen.
plea. He'll hear my plea.
Please
No,
speak of.
he's going to stop as right as you go.
Please
with the,
tell me
song.
of Hades, Usul.
Hades. The son of Hades is trying to escape the underworld. He's wanting to go to Olympus, But Hades wants him to stay. He throws everything in his path to attempt to stop him. Yeah, you have your sword, you have your fist, you have your bow and arrow, or whatever. You're trying to slug through everything, and the gods, they give you boons in order to assist you because they're rooting for you to escape. And then as soon as you're about to get to Olympus, Hades stops you, and he's a bitch because he disappears and he reappears and hacks at you with a giant sword, and you have to start all the way over again. It's a very fun game.
That reminds me of Clash of the Titans so much when like Hades got stopped by Hades and had to start over again.
Hades stops Hades.
Mm-hmm.
But no, very fun game.
There you go. Good stuff.
Nice.
Another one I kind of want to mention is a lot of the games that we've mentioned are like Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology.
Mm-hmm.
One that
I talked about Rygar that had like nothing to do with Aztec and Mayan culture. Go ahead.
Or maybe. I can neither confirm nor deny.
Same.
One game that it's kind of around like a biblical inspiration, Darksiders.
I was about to slap you in the
Bible.
face.
The Bible is mythology. Clearly, this will not be controversial.
Or like it's
Fuck that. Let's talk about the wisdom tree games. All right, go ahead.
The first game I know
I kept
as
throwing
much.
baby Moses in that river all the time.
all the
it's
time.
so funny.
It's so fun.
I don't even know what game y'all are talking about.
Oh man.
Okay, we're gonna take a small diversion.
Small diversion. Okay.
Keep your stuff going.
Okay.
Keep your stuff going for Darksiders because I do believe you have a good point there. At the very least, metaphorically, I think there's good stuff there. But their wisdom tree used to be called Color Dreams, and they would make unauthorized NES games.
Right.
And they made a 3-pack. It was 3 games on one cartridge, and one of them was the story of Moses. And you play Moses's. Was it his mother or was it his?
I think it was the lady that just found
that found
Moses.
him in the river. Yeah. And what you do is you pick Moses up, and you have to carry him with you to the end of the level. But what you can do is you can immediately just dunk him in the river and just go to the end of the level. It goes, congratulations, but you forgot baby Moses. You do it again, and it was an amazing game, and it.
Bible Adventures.
Bible Adventures, yes. It's got that. It's got the story of Noah, and there was
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They actually like fought a bunch of lions.
Yeah. I think it also had the 3 wise men, except it was the same wise men riding a camel up a mountain, which you really shouldn't do.
Yeah, no, it's a bad idea.
That's very bad idea for the camel, you monsters.
Oh, I see baby Moses right now.
Yep.
Jesus.
It's like that penguin from Super Mario 64 just kept trying to throw it off the
baby
edge.
Moses, and David and Goliath.
David and Goliath.
My favorite part about there's 2 baby penguins in that game, and there's the one baby penguin at the bottom of the hill, and you just try to hand it to the mother. That's not my baby. That's a fake baby.
You can legit throw the baby off the edge.
Go off the edge, and it's so good. Oh my god!
I'm looking at pictures. Oh no.
The wisdom tree?
Yeah.
The way that Moses' mother looks terrified with her wide eyes.
With
Yeah.
her wide eyes.
Oh no.
It's great.
Tell me of Darksiders.
Darksiders, yes.
Usul.
Usul.
The first game, it follows War, one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
One of the biblically accurate horsemen in this game
When
series.
he said Worf, I thought he meant from
Star Trek: The Next Generation.
And I thought I didn't know that the Horseman of Death.
Is there
was-
going to be a
or
side
war was-
arc with Troy?
I
Okay.
don't know.
Continue
That
on.
was at the very end.
I know. Continue on.
But yeah, it's quite literally like Revelations, like the
Literally Revelations.
the apocalypse, and you're playing war. You're going through, and you're having to. Shit, I kind of lost my train of thought.
Kill
I thought
shit.
you were building up to something.
You're
amazing.
having to kill shit.
Yeah.
You
because
kill
you're
shit
war.
as war.
Yeah,
yes.
of course.
It's one of the best 3D Zelda games ever made.
Yeah.
It has Mark Hamill
and then
as a voice actor.
yeah, then we have the death after that.
Yeah, with Darksiders 2. And that was
Yeah,
pretty good.
And then they ignore.
And then they just never made it. Never made another one. I
They
don't
made a
think.
third one.
They
did?
But it's no more part biblical. anymore.
It's Fury.
Yeah, I remember that Horseman Fury. You remember that right in between Pestilence and Famine,
Darksiders
which is like
3
almost the
video
same thing.
game.
Yeah.
It's on Steam,
Mm-hmm.
so you know it's a video game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
It's on PS4 and Xbox One and the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to find the 7 deadly sins.
Mm-hmm. Because that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Darksiders at least covers the Bible.
The first two are like sort of, and then they're like, we better not do that anymore.
I think it was a great motif. Like, yeah, but I also at the same time, like, I could see there's the idea of giving things a righteous or honorable death. So I can see why death is war for all of its negative connotations. You know, it's the
Right.
idea of dying nobly and
Pestilence
valid.
just doesn't roll off the tongue for a video game.
And famine.
Yeah.
There, how it's like, oh, you go around making people hungry.
Yeah.
That's not noble.
Yeah.
That's never noble. Just slapping the
Darksiders-
sandwiches out of people's mouths. What the fuck?
Darksiders Genesis, it follows Strife, who also has war alongside him, and it's a 2-player game.
What was the name of that one again?
Strife.
No, the game.
Darksiders Genesis.
Yeah,
Was that for the Sega Genesis? I
like how-
in the PAL regions is it called Darksiders Mega Drive?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Genesis.
Are there any other games we want to mention before we kind of
Fuck it, let's talk about Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed.
There we go.
So this is where I think it's kind of mythology adjacent,
Mm-hmm.
but you know we have had what was the Egyptian Assassin's Creed?
Odyssey.
Odyssey.
No.
What that would be the Greek
Origins.
one.
Origins.
Okay,
I was about to say,
They both had O's
this
in their
is
names.
why
okay?
this is why the country of Greece has never listened to our podcast, and I can prove that with the analytics. It's like we get them in Egypt mixed up all the time, and you don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, that's a bad idea.
You don't want to do that. But yeah, we have Odyssey, Origins,
Mm-hmm.
Valhalla.
Valhalla. Yeah. Okay. So
Mhm.
yeah. So again, things that are tangential to it, where I think they kind of have a reverence to the mythology without actually having like the beings from the mythology.
What were we
But-
talking about before we started recording? We talked about Prince of Persia, and depending on which one you're talking about, the original one definitely not.
Yeah.
The Sands of Time adjacent, kind of.
Yeah,
you
again,
know?
it's mythology adjacent, where you're bringing in things for like I think the Mesopotamian gods and the Persian, like and
Mostly
the
Persia.
and the Persian gods are
Yeah.
they're kind of like they're a backdrop. They're not directly in play there, but they're also games that you have. I think in Assassin's Creed, extraordinary, and then when you get to Prince of Persia, where you have supernatural abilities kind of thrown in there. So the mythology to me is always a background, but is never fully on what you were.
It's
dealing
never an
with in there.
influence as to what you're doing.
Well, I mean, depending
No,
on
it's an influence on
Right.
what you're doing.
you know, because we first off, I don't think we'd have enough games to talk about. We were talking about just directly being involved, directly in something like, you know, for example, like the NES games like Athena, and what was it? There's another one that I can't think of. I know there's a Hercules one I think on the Nintendo as well.
There is, but it's there's. See, is it the Hercules game or the Conan game? And the Conan's not that, because I remember that Conan. I rented that from that video place, and man, that was. You had to be into computer games because that's kind of like how it was, because it was a little bit esoteric as to how you advance. Like it should just be a platformer where you have a sword and are Conan and you're just chopping people up,
Right.
and you have to like jump in certain spots, and you have to kill certain enemies to get a certain trident so that you can actually kill the final boss and proceed to the next level. It
I could
was,
be like,
yeah.
I could be like super like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon and talk about the Xena Warrior Princess PS1 video game because the TV show had Greek gods in it. So did the video game.
Yeah.
But
And
Assassin's,
it's also the Hercules games.
but Assassin's Creed, you know.
That Hercules game was, I believe, indirectly, not referenced, indirectly inspired by the Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
Because of how you got about in the world, in the primary loop there.
When it comes to the Assassin's Creed games, I think the only ones that really have like a mythology influence would be Valhalla, Odyssey, Origins, and you could also argue for Assassin's Creed 3 because of the main character that you play. You play
Native American.
you play a Native American that has indigenous.
Well, you have Native American ancestry. I think also. I think you're between both the Native American culture and the white culture that came in.
That's also set during the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
You fight George Washington.
Yeah. And not the Ballad of King George, but the Tyranny of King George, because he gets the apple and then goes crazy, which is what happens to everyone who gets the apple. It's just the way it is in that game.
That'd have been a different Hamilton musical.
Yeah, the kind of like I think over the entire series of Assassin's Creed, you have the biblical mythology of it, because that apple is the apple from the Garden of Eden, except it's a science fiction retelling. I guess going back to our science fiction thing, it's like it's the entire power over reality and shit. So there's something to be said there.
Stargate.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Age of Mythology, which is from one of my favorite real-time strategy companies that died many years ago and made me sad, but Ensemble Studios, who were behind the Age of Empires series. They did 1, 2, and 3. 4, not very recently, but most recently came out like a couple years ago, and is mostly been about historical battling, which is weird because in Age of Empires 2, I think you can have like South Sea Islanders with trebuchets, which makes no goddamn sense, but fuck it, we're going with it.
I always love trebuchets being brought into a military conflict.
Yeah, it's
they're
great.
the fucking weirdest siege weapon of all time.
Okay, let's get a giant pulley and we're gonna load it with like bricks that we would be used to build monasteries.
Big ass rock in it
and just fling it.
The guy who made that was like, listen, have you heard of a sling? All right, we're gonna make one that's gonna be really big.
It's gonna be made out of wood and ropes. And you see that building over there? We're just gonna knock bricks out of it, just throw it at other buildings.
They have a competition where they use a trebuchet to launch cars in France. It's fucking amazing.
There was an episode of Top Gear where they launched a sedan, and it was amazing.
French extremity, otherwise known as French. That's just the way it is.
But speak of mythology,
the Age of Mythology, which was a real-time strategy game where your powers were literally bestowed upon you by gods. The campaign is crazy. You play an Atlantean. First off, let's just start that out right there. You play an Atlantean that is fighting in the Trojan Wars, except you get sent to hell. And you beg Zeus, it's like Poseidon is the patron of Atlantis. Like Zeus, Poseidon, get us out of here. And Poseidon does nothing. And then Zeus is like, Zeus, get us the fuck out of here. And so he builds you a stairwell, and you get to the surface, and you're in Egypt. Now the Egyptian gods are in play, but Zeus led you to what's going on. And then from Egypt, you eventually end up with the Norse gods. And you're in and then finally, the end of the game, you win, but all of Atlantis sunk to the bottom of the ocean. The Age of Mythology, but no, it was very strange. That was one where it's a little more direct because you are doing prayers and oblations to the gods, and the gods' powers are making so that you can actually proceed throughout the game. There's an actual dialogue with it and kind of a background of it. I kind of like the interestingness of the main bad guy is basically trying to destroy all of creation, and he's getting help by these other gods that are doing it. Poseidon's doing it because he wants to take over Zeus's domain. Loki wants to do it because it's Thursday. It was a fun game, and it was in that classic Ensemble Studios style of an RTS, but with all these fantastical elements. I think were really, really like put in very well.
Tomb Raider 133 remastered has Atlantis in it as well, apparently. I did not know about that.
Yeah.
And also Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. There's Atlantis in that.
Yeah. I think with Tomb Raiders, it's kind of funny. It's basically the female Indiana Jones in that the mythology exists, and we're playing with mythology, but we're doing it from a strictly kind of secular kind of like we're trying to deal with this in kind of like almost... I would almost say like a scientific way, but in Laura's case, we're dealing with it in kind of an action adventure, like a purely action adventure way.
Yeah, because I know I played the 2016 game Tomb Raider, and it was
Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Rise of the Tomb Raider, yes, and it was based in Laura Croft. She gets stranded on a set of Japanese islands, and there's like a heavy Japanese mythology influence to it as she's trying to figure out how to escape the island while also finding the people that she's with.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And also, I mean, we're mentioning Atlantis. We can't forget Zach McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
What was that? I forgot about it.
Zach McCracken.
As soon as you fucking mentioned
Zach
it.
McCracken. It was a Lucasfilm game. I bet it's probably really good.
Okay, let me speak very quickly on
9 out of
on
10 on Steam. What is
that.
this?
Okay, so there's a mythology in and of itself behind Lucasfilm and its adventure game series. Monkey Island was top of the line.
It's fantastic.
Maniac Mansion and the sequel,
Pretty
Day
good.
of the Tentacle,
Yeah.
were top of the line.
Yeah.
They did a lot of them. I think Sierra is the only company that,
Right.
in my opinion, did more of them.
Yeah.
Lucasfilm did a lot of them, and I think they had some of, and if not the best ones.
Right.
But they weren't all gold.
They weren't all
and
gold, no.
he has completely forgot the topic and is looking up Zach McCracken lore as we speak.
Yeah, you mentioned I just want to make sure we're on the same page, okay?
No, you didn't believe him. You thought he was making shit up.
No. I believe everything that he says, unfortunately. When he mentioned Captain Future, Wizard of Tomorrow,
You realize what that implies, right?
No, explain it.
Okay, I believe everything he says about things, but me, you don't.
He's nodding his
Discovered
head.
the power of the breeding pen.
Okay, there you go.
I think to capstone this episode,
Don't ever say that in my presence.
Okay, I'm just
Jason,
saying.
where are you at?
Alive somewhere.
Yeah, alive and well and living in the state of
Alive
not
and
being
well
on
and
this
healthy,
episode.
yes. Probably the most well-known game
Easily.
easily.
Yeah, like across, at the very least, across all
And
generations
not
of gaming.
myth adjacent. You're in it.
Yeah,
You're in it 100%.
You're eyes high into
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're knee deep into it. It is the God of War franchise.
Of course.
You are Kratos. You are killing the Olympian gods. After you do that, what do? You go to
You move north.
you
because
move north.
Yeah.
You get into the snowlands. You kill the Norse gods. At least a god.
You're more
Three
chill.
gods.
You're more chill with the Norse gods,
Yeah.
but you're still killing a bunch of them. I loved the Chaos Blades moment in the first
Yeah.
Norse God of War because that if you're going to call back to the original series, you do it that way.
It is easily. We've mentioned it before. Top 5 game series of all time for me.
Okay.
Just the mythology aside, just Kratos, the character, his development as a person, going from this rage fueled killing machine into a father figure that's trying to set a good example for a son. That's amazing. The mythology,
The gameplay loop is also always solid. Like to me, if it wasn't, that is a type of game style that can be very easy to get boring.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you can do with Kratos, with the way the action is paced, whether it's in the original PS, two and three,
PS2.
because
PS2 was the
God
first
of War
one.
1 and 2 was PS2, and God of War 3 was PS3,
PS3,
right?
yeah.
Okay. Like from the PS2 and PS3 series to the PS4 now PS5 series with the 2 games they've had there, it is very easy to make that combat boring because if all you have to do is just keep hitting X and eventually you win, I think it really it becomes just a boring game and a primary loop that's not going to keep you engaged. They keep you engaged across 5 games, and again with a big shift between 3 and 4.
And I think if it wasn't for the quality of like the gameplay and the story, because if you don't remember, there were quite a few clones that tried to mimic the gameplay, but didn't really.
Dante's Inferno.
Yep.
Yep.
Did not fulfill the rest of the requirements to make a franchise out of that, which is Dante's Inferno, and I think there's one other one that I can't think of right now.
I think Dante's Inferno.
That's the main outlier.
Yeah, that's the one that is 100% there. I think they captured the spectacle correctly. The problem is, again, you're gonna go with, or rather, I will go back to the primary loop.
Yeah.
The primary loop is, I felt the easiest way to win that game was pick one, either the angel or the devil side. All right, I don't think it was basically like the power of heaven, the power of hell. Pick one side and just run with that. And then once you powered that side up, you don't need the other side. I think you had a blending there of God of War and Infamous slash Prototype. Yeah.
Prototype, yeah.
Yeah, where you have like these two diverging paths that you have in your
Right.
powers between like good and evil. And I don't mind a game, giving you the choice between do I want to, indulge in darkness or, fight with honor. I think there's something to be good there, but the loop has to be interesting.
Right.
And if sacrificing one means you're going to have a harder time because of that, I think there's something to be had there. I never felt that pull in Dante's
Right.
Inferno. I felt just level up one side and you should be fine. And maybe I'm wrong on that. I just
Right.
never felt it
Right.
felt it doing that game. Meanwhile, you look at God of War, the choices you make in your upgrades are meaningful. And the fighting that you're doing in the game is fun. So you want to keep fighting because you enjoy the experience, and then you are rewarded with getting stuff that will make you fight better and then keep going on. If the primary loop doesn't work, those games don't work. God of
Right.
War has successfully done it. Not counting because I know there's Chains of Olympus and a bunch of other games that I think were PSP or just diversions on that.
Yeah.
There are also those, but the 5 mainline games have done a fantastic job of giving you a game worth playing paired with a story told well.
Right.
And that is what you get out of God of War. And again, you have the trappings of the mythology, so you already have an idea of these characters. You already know that Zeus is kind of an asshole and that Hera is kind of like a God, how best to put this being diplomatically? I want to be diplomatic because Hera exists. That's the one Greek goddess that fucking survived because she's the crone and she survives all of the evil. But the scorned wife and also the protective mother. Like, so you have these notions of these things, these archetypal characters that have existed since possibly even the dawn of storytelling.
Right.
And so you have these things and they're being told and used well. For me, just to put a smile on my face, God of War 3, the fact that Kevin Sorbo, who played Hercules in the TV series, he was Hercules in God of War 3. And it's just, okay, that kind of a link there. Like, they understand their audience. They understand what their audience understands about these stories.
Right.
I think they've done a tremendous job. Because it was... God, it was PlayStation in particular, because they've all been done under the PlayStation banner. But yeah, just absolutely fantastic, top to bottom. I cannot remember his name because he also did the Twisted Metal series. The designer for that, he was the first designer for God of War, and then subsequently, like, the art director for the previous game becomes the director of the next game for 2 and 3, which I think was a very kind of interesting way of doing it because I think they knew they had their loop down.
Right.
They knew they had their primary game, and now it's just a matter of making sure that the look of the game went with the story and the feel of the game. But yeah.
Also, just so that we don't get any angry letters, there is another franchise that wasn't mentioned, and I didn't mention it earlier because I just wanted to kind of throw it in here as a quick to do because some people may consider it having a mythology to it, some may not. Like Devil May Cry series, Devil May Cry.
No, like that one, I wouldn't even say is mythology adjacent. I think they are taking portions of mythology and they're grafting it to their world.
Right.
Which I think again goes back to the archetypals and like these things that without having to think about it, what they are.
Right.
So you can incorporate them well and then put your own spin on them.
Right.
Like you have the was it Devil May Cry 2 or 3 where you effectively have Cerberus and like you're taunting Cerberus right at the start.
I believe
of it.
that's the third one.
Is it the third one? Yeah,
I believe so.
And you're taunting the dog. It's like, oh, you're a bad boy. Like it's like, how dare you? It's like oh, you're mad now. Well, let's fight. Let's go.
Yeah.
And that's more about angels and devils.
Right.
But you also again like Cerberus comes from the Greek myth and things like that.
Yeah.
I can't add anything because I've never played the Devil May Cry series.
For shame.
I would actually say this: skip Devil May Cry 2 because that's more difficult than it is fun. It's fun, but you've really got to squeeze that lemon in order to get the enjoyment.
To me, it's easier than 3.
3 upped the fun to where they're, but like, yeah, 3 is harder than 2. 3 was more fun than 2.
I think that's a personal opinion. I
4,
feel 2 is funner than 3.
don't do 4.
Don't do 4.
Because
We
they
can
did-
both agree on don't do 4.
because they didn't care anymore.
But DMC is all right.
This is going to be controversial. I prefer DMC to almost every other Devil May Cry.
Well, the gameplay's phenomenal.
Again, the primary look
Right.
is great. It's just that people have, and here's where preconceived notions of characters get in the way. Like, it's a retelling of the Devil May Cry story,
Right.
and people didn't want that retelling, and they didn't want it in the fashion that they got it.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of Devil May Cry fans that simply would not get on board because of the look of it. And also around that time, you have games that are doing what Devil May Cry is doing, and so you have other options that you can go down. I would think. I don't think Bayonetta starts yet, but it's close around that era.
I think Bayonetta started before DMC.
DMC, yeah, well, I'm saying from DMC specifically,
Right,
if that was
right.
the case. But
I think, yeah.
Platinum Games is becoming its own thing,
Right.
And then you have, I think, again, you have stuff like God of War, which is an action game, and you still have combos, and you're still doing things like that. So it's very similar to Devil May Cry in that regard. So you kind of don't need Devil May Cry anymore, and so you have all these options. And DMC didn't satiate the main base. I think they went back to that in Devil May Cry 5, and I highly recommend Devil May Cry 5. But I would also recommend DMC as well.
Yeah. I would also recommend DMC.
All right. DMC, don't play 4. Gotcha.
And 2 is subjective.
So 1, 2, 3, 5. Gotcha.
You don't have to play 1.
Okay.
1's fine.
See, I'm a game historical. Like, start with 1 to see how it started. It's going to be a little less intuitive because
The gameplay's a little bit different. Like the gameplay evolved just like it does for every other game.
yeah, but it's kind of nice to know where this thing came from, to know where it's going. Like, if you wanted to get involved with real-time strategy games, I would say start with Dune 2 and Warcraft.
Right.
Not Warcraft 2, not Warcraft anything with a subtitle.
Right.
The only subtitle you need is Warcraft Orcs and Humans. Start with those 2 games and see where RTSs went after that.
Yeah.
And you will be pleasantly shocked at where they've come from.
Man,
since.
Dune was so good.
Dune 2 was great, but then like they started refining things like Dune 2000, which was basically Dune 2 again, but with modern at the time modern takes on RTSs, which like, let me click and drag. Oh, I can't do that in Dune 2. You
Right.
can't click and drag a bunch of units and send them to
Right.
attack. You have to
Right.
send each one individually.
Separately, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got onto RTSs,
Yeah,
but
that's
it
fine.
was about Dune.
It
which
was only for 30
that's
seconds.
that's a typical talk about there.
Are there any games that we're missing or
I'm sure there are games
yeah.
we are missing, but I mean, there's a lot of games. There's a lot of games we haven't played. I haven't played some of the ones we've talked about. I never got to play the PC game he was talking about earlier. It sounds awesome.
Age of Mythology.
Yeah.
I know when we were discussing this topic last week, Brady said he wanted to mention Asura's Wrath or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not. I never
I'm
played
not
that.
familiar enough
Yeah.
with the game, and maybe next time, just as a quick add-on to next, I'd like, because I would like to hear Brady's thoughts
Yeah,
about this
sure.
because again, he's mentioned a game that I am aware of.
Yeah, I know what
Never-
it is.
yeah,
I never
never
played
played.
it.
I'm aware of it, and I've seen clips of it, and it looks amazing. However,
Right.
I just don't know what it is either.
Yeah.
Games made by major studios now should only look amazing, and that is that is one of the problems they have. Like, if you're going to tell me that a Final Fantasy game looks amazing, I'm going to be like, yeah, it better look
Right,
amazing, because
right.
they've only done like what
A lot of them.
16 amazing looking games for their times. Like,
Right.
yeah,
If that is the case, I believe we're pulling into some kind of station
all
now.
right, there we go.
Jay, hit us with a friend.
For the finest in talks about libations and grapples, check out Whiskey and Wrestling. Michael Hill and Jason Holder, who we can confirm alive, it takes you through a week's of news in the world of professional wrestling, along with their opinions of matches from TV and pay-per-views. and they pair that with a fine libation, typically whiskey, but sometimes they'll go afield. The Rock coming back at WrestleMania, good. The Rock's vodka, not so good. Spoilers, but there you go.
Yes.
But that is Whiskey and Wrestling. Check them out on all major podcasting avenues.
Jody, hit us with someone.
In the dark corners of your mind, deep within your fear lies Silence Your Cell Phones is a show with Kevin Shelton and Jared Hubbard, where they talk about different movies and TV shows streaming. I wonder if they watched Fallout. You should probably check them out. They probably did. They're on all the pod forms. Silence your cell phones.
Oh wait, he's not.
Wow.
He got out of presenting
he got
podcasts
out of the plug.
by not
He
being on the
finally
podcast.
got his
in general.
wish has been fulfilled.
There you go. He's fulfilled that wish when he's hosted before, dagnabbit.
Jay, hit us with someone else.
In the mind of the fearful, there's only one area to go to. Drumming. Stephen Nelson II and Jarrett Taylor present to you Bearded Drums, a podcast about gear and gigs in the world of drums, with live performances recorded and then presented to you on all major podcasting avenues and on YouTube. Again, that is Bearded Drums, Mr. Stephen Nelson II and Jarrett Taylor.
Jody, back to you again.
I can't do it again because I can. Hold on.
Yeah, you can.
In the dark past of you can enjoy gaming of all kinds at McDarb Gaming. They have puzzles.
McDarb Gaming.
McDarb Gaming. McDarb Gaming, where all of your puzzles and shit and dice can be acquired and rolled and or put together with no hourly charge. And
Yes,
lovely
if you want,
Goshen,
if you want to
Mississippi.
sit down at a table and there's an open table, you can do that. And there's not a single cent you
Not
got
a
to pay
single
for.
cent.
You might have a conversation with the God Emperor of Gaming himself, Cameron Spanier.
You might.
Speaking of mythology in game stores,
Ask him for a nice game.
we didn't
of
meet the god of
chess.
gaming at Level Up. We should have, so that we could start a different sect,
Yes.
and then we could have like mythological battles.
Mythological battles of all kinds.
The ultimate gaming battle. Jay, hit us with another one.
I would ask you on behalf of our friend Christopher Vega if you would do the complete podcast for them.
The Completed Podcast, a Magic the Gathering centered podcast hosted by Christopher Vega, Brendan Scott Tanner, and Brandon Smith. They go about the ins and outs of competitive Magic, standard, modern, pioneer, not Commander because it's not recognized as a competitive format. They talk about the metagames of each format. They have detailed interviews with professional players, with Brendan Scott Tanner being a former Pro Tour player. They talk about their personal relationship with the game, experiences, road trips. Check them out, the Completed Podcast.
There you go. And finally, one for the homeboys, ladies and gentlemen. JL Kite is the host of Fearology, a personal trip through his history with horror, from TV series and movies. And have you done books yet, or am I losing my
I
mind?
haven't done a book yet.
Okay, it's something that I thought you may have done.
I need to at some point.
Yes. Yeah, any and everything Junji Ito, I think would be amazing.
Yeah. There was I had an idea of talking about. Well, I've seen the live action Uzumaki, and it's not good.
Yeah.
So,
But the on the page Uzumaki is amazing.
amazing. Tomei is my favorite so far that
There
I've
you go.
read from him.
Absolutely. But yes, check that out. That is Fearology, available on Spotify. And there you go.
That is, I believe, all of our friends alive and healthy.
Alive and healthy. That's very
Alive
much.
and healthy.
Yeah.
I believe that about does it.
Yeah, just about it. We don't know what we're doing again next
Yeah, I
week.
was about to say, tune in next week where we don't know yet.
Where we figured out what we want to do, but we haven't figured it out yet.
We don't know what we're doing yet, but maybe you could tell us what we can do.
Yes, that would be feedback. And again, travelers on the omnibus at gmail.com.
Yeah, come up with some topics. It makes less work for us.
Yes. For myself, I am Ethan Skinner.
For myself, I am Jody Kite.
For not myself, Brady Davis will be back next week. And then for myself, James McCarthy.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us again.
Oh yeah, this old tune.
This 20-second saver is
Yeah.
just a lifesaver.
It's
for me.
amazing.
You might say it's a cream saver.
Yeah,
I may go
yeah.
back there and buy the orange cream savers because I want to pretend to be an old man.
This was like the intro and outro is like two of like I think 10 songs I submitted to Jay when we started the show.
I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I love the flow of it because it just feels like okay, the bus landed, but you still have that kind of
It's
mosey
kind
on
of zooming
feeling.
around.
Yeah.
Doom, 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 wow, 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 wow.
Yeah, it's just jamming.